To start any design, the first thing that you want to do is you want to be able to reference realistic data in your in the design that you're trying to do. And in this case here, I've brought in a regular sized man that we're going to be using for the design. So the first thing I'll do is I actually will copy this man multiple times and create a layout for how they'll be seated together into the overall ride. So now that I've pulled up, I'm done with the positioning of the man. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in some seats. And the first thing I'll do is, these seats, by the way, can come from any source. They could come from a CAD location, they could come from a standard library or previous work that you've done. And by using data from pre-existing areas, there's less work to be done in the design itself. And you can concentrate on the design itself, the design at hand. So once we've gotten the seats positioned in place, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an area that we're going to work with for the design itself. You can see that I created a rectangle here, and that's going to be the space that we're actually going to use for the design. Inspiration for this design, I went out to the web and looked at some various types of images that would give me an idea of what my overall shape was going to be like. I like the concept of these big wings coming off the back, the sloped front end to the design. And originally I'd planned on having this front end, this jet engine front end type thing coming into the design itself. Of course, I have to have plenty of space for my passengers to sit inside of here, so that's it. And all I did was just start to sketch just some general ideas of what the overall look was going to be. Well, rather than replay what I did here, what I thought we'd do is go into a different view, a top view of the design, and start to look at how we're going to construct this overall shape. So what I've done is I've gone into my paint mode and just set it up so that I've set up my symmetrical line for doing the sketching, and I've also opened up the canvas layer. Now inside of aliasStudio, the drawing tools are really quite robust. It gives you the ability to create multiple layers so that as you're working on the shapes, you can separate them and rework different sections as you choose. If I just go into my overall tools, I can very quickly go in and start doing some general designs of what the shape is going to look like. Just kind of get an idea, just some pencil sketches of what this overall area is. So I'm going to have some fins back here, so I'm going to pull those back. All I have to do is undo to pull those in. Probably going to have some kind of form that's coming across here. And what's great about this is as I'm working, I can see what it's looking like from a symmetrical perspective. I can get an idea of what the overall shape is going to be. As we continue on here, I'm just going to grab a brush down here, and now I'm going to start to figure out exactly what my shape is going to look like. So what's great about this particular tool is it senses the pressure that you're working on there. So as you're going across, you can have light strokes or dark strokes or blending strokes in there. And I can go through and start to find define what the overall look of the sky is going to be. So I'm going to have some areas down here. I'm going to have this guy here coming down, getting a little darker. I'm going to keep on working up this model until I get really a sense as to what the overall shape is going to be like on there. Just went and grabbed an eraser, and I can start to erase. And of course, I want to be able to control the overall size of that eraser so that it's forming the way that I'd like for it to form. And again, I'm just going to keep on working this design until I get the shape that I'm really going to be happy with. Gives me an idea so that as I'm working on the details of it, when I'm actually starting to create the math information, I really can get into those detail levels of it. So let's go ahead and step ahead to where we're actually starting to craft the math data itself. So I'm going to switch over to my regular modeling mode, and I've already gone through and done some work on here. So let's take a look at what that might look like. So in a three-dimensional view, the first thing to look at is that all of the work that I've done so far, all the shading that I've been doing, all the sketching work, is all on a 2D plane. From that particular 2D plane, I can come in and start to extract where the lines are going to be. And that's how I actually generated this. I created some curves that would generate the overall shape. And from those curves, I actually let me put shading on so you can see a little bit better. You can see that I went and created some very simple geometric shapes to help come out with my areas inside of the wing that are going to be indented in here. I also created some cones and duplicated those several times so that I had the cutouts for the overall design. Well, if I step ahead in the process where I've gone through and just trimmed all that information back, you're starting to see that the shape itself is forming into something that is more of what you would want from an overall design. So I went in and grabbed those bits and pieces of information on here. So we're seeing more and more details of what the design is looking like. Altogether on this design, I probably have spent maybe a couple hours. So I haven't spent a lot of time and energy on here. So another thing that you'll notice as I pulled this in is I have this bat logo on here that I created from kind of looking at other designs and something that I thought would be kind of cool. Now, one of the tools to help you create conceptual models is the ability to be able to take a shape like this and be able to conform it. So let me just go ahead and without having to work on the whole thing and look at what's actually happened on here. So all I did literally was grab this particular shape, the flat shape, select the surface that I wanted it to go to, and you'll notice that it's perfectly conformed to the surface itself. It's a great way to allow yourself to have to put a shape on, capture the essence of a profile view of it. So all I did was take the data that I was just working on and pulled that into Showcase. And Showcase is a great tool for doing real-time visualization of your product. And so I used the wire file from the alias model, and in conjunction with a max model for the track itself, and pulled it in just so I can get a quick review. This is an awesome tool to allow you to look at where you might want to do changes in the design. With only a couple hours into the design itself, I have you really get a sense as to whether this is going to communicate what you wanted to with the overall design, and it gives you a chance as a group to make a decision whether or not this is the right approach to the design or not. And we haven't invested much money into the design, much time into the design, so we don't have any issues with respect to that. So as you can see, I have the logos on here, did some colorization, real quick materials onto it to give an idea of what the overall shape is going to look like. And of course, Showcase has some pre-played animations that, as I exit here, you'll see that pre-played animation sequence that I put together.